The coffee in John Carter's mug had gone cold hours ago. He rubbed his tired eyes and leaned closer to his computer screen. The numbers didn't make sense. He had checked them 3 times already. This can't be right, he muttered to himself. John worked at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. For 15 years he had studied the sun. He knew its patterns, its cycles, its every mood. But the data from the last 3 weeks showed something impossible. The sun was moving. Not the normal movement through space that all stars have. This was different. The sun was changing its position relative to the planets. Very slightly, but enough that his instruments could detect it. The door to his small office opened. Lisa Wells walked in with her own coffee mug. "You're still here?" "It's almost midnight, John." Lisa was his colleague and friend. She was smart, much smarter than him, John often thought. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she looked tired after a long day. "Look at this," John said, pointing at his screen. "The gravitational readings from the sun, they're off." Lisa set her mug down and leaned over his shoulder. "By how much?" "Not much. A fraction of a percent, but consistently." Lisa frowned. "Your equipment must be broken. Stars don't just change their gravitational output like that." "I've checked everything 3 times. Lisa looked at the data for a few minutes. "Even if this is accurate, it's too small to matter. The effect on Earth would be minimal." "That's not the point," John said. "The point is that it shouldn't be happening at all." Lisa straightened up. "Get some sleep, John. Check it again tomorrow with fresh eyes. I bet it's just a calibration error." After Lisa left, John stayed for another hour. He sent himself the data and finally went home to his small apartment. That night, he dreamed of the sun growing eyes and looking down at Earth, on the other side of the solar system beyond the orbit of Pluto. A small ship floated silently in space. It was dark gray and shaped like an arrowhead. No human telescope could have spotted it. The ship had been there for 50 years, watching and reporting. Inside, Officer Ben Miller looked at his sensor readings with alarm. The star at the center of the system was showing anomalous behavior. His orders were clear for such a situation. He opened a secure communication channel to the nearest Imperial outpost, Scout Ship 1138, reporting a Class 9 anomaly in the Sol system. "The dormant entity is showing signs of activity. Request immediate instructions." The reply came quickly. "Maintain observation, support fleet being dispatched, estimated arrival, 6 standard cycles." Ben looked out his viewport at the distant yellow star. The humans living under its light had no idea what it really was, or what would happen when it fully woke up. Admiral Vincent Shaw walked quickly through the gleaming hallways of the Imperial Palace on Nexus Prime. Aides and officers moved out of his way. His gray uniform was perfectly pressed, but his face showed worry. He entered the council chamber and bowed to the 5 figures seated at the high table. "Hi, Council. Thank you for meeting on such short notice." Counselor Dara, an elderly woman with silver hair, spoke first. "Your message mentioned Earth. That backwater has never warranted emergency meetings before." "It's not the planet that concerns me, Counselor. It's their sun." Shaw activated a holographic display in the center of the room. A perfect image of Earth's solar system appeared, with the sun glowing brightly at its center. 3 days ago, one of our scout ships detected gravitational anomalies from this star. The patterns match the early signs of awakening. The room went silent. Counselor Marcus, a tall man with dark skin, leaned forward. "Are you certain? That sector has been stable for thousands of years." "The readings are clear," Shaw said. "And they're getting stronger." Counselor Dara sighed. "Let's not overreact. It may be a false alarm. These dormant entities sometimes shift in their sleep." "I hope you're right," Shaw said. "But if you're not, we're looking at a potential Category 1 crisis. The humans have no idea what they're living next to." "What about our protocols?" asked Counselor Marcus. "Already in motion," Shaw replied. "A fleet has been dispatched to establish observation posts throughout the system. If the entity fully awakens, we'll have no choice but to make contact with Earth." "Those poor creatures," said a younger counselor at the end of the table. Their whole civilization built under the light of a sleeping god. What will they do when they learn the truth? That's not our concern, Counselor Dara said firmly. Our duty is to the Empire and its billion worlds. If this entity becomes hostile like the one in the Arcturus sector did, we must be prepared to act. Admiral Shaw nodded grimly. I'll oversee the operation personally. As the meeting ended, Shaw walked to a private terminal and entered his security codes. A classified file appeared labeled SOL3 Dormant Entity Type 9. He opened a subsection marked Historical Records and read the first lines. First observed, 27,000 Imperial Standard, years ago. Classification, Omega level power entity in dormant. State. Warning indicators. Solar flares and mathematical sequences. Gravitational fluctuations. Coronal mass ejections. Targeting specific celestial bodies. Containment protocol. None possible. Recommended action upon awakening. Immediate evacuation of all Imperial assets from the sector. Shaw closed the file. The humans of Earth thought they were alone in the galaxy. They thought their sun was just a ball of burning gas. They had no idea they lived in the shadow of a sleeping giant that was now, after thousands of years, beginning to stir. Back on Earth, John Carter finally fell asleep at his desk, his computer still running calculations. On his screen, a small alert flashed repeatedly. Gravitational anomaly increased by 0.03%. Solar, core activity showing pattern Alpha 7. Outside, the night was clear and stars shone brightly. The moon cast silver light over the observatory's white dome. Everything seemed normal, but 93 million miles away, deep inside the sun, something ancient was waking up. For billions of years it had dreamed. It had watched the small blue planet develop life. It had seen the rise of a curious species that built tools and cities, and now finally they were ready. It was time to move. 6 months had passed since John Carter first noticed the sun's strange behavior. Winter had turned to spring, and the scientific community had turned his life into hell. Solar propulsion theory debunked again, John read from the Science magazine. On his desk. The article called his research fringe science at best and career suicide at worst. Lisa Wells knocked on his office door and walked in without waiting for an answer. Still reading your fan mail? John tossed the magazine into the trash. They don't even look at the data, they just attack me. That's because you're saying the sun is moving by itself, Lisa said. Like it has an engine or something. I never said that, John replied. I just reported what the instruments show. The sun is exhibiting directional thrust. That's a fact. Lisa sat down across from him. Over the past months, she had checked his findings herself. To her surprise, the data held up. The sun was indeed moving in ways that natural physics couldn't explain. Well, someone is finally taking us seriously, she said, placing a letter on his desk. NASA wants to meet with us next week. John looked up. Both of us? Apparently I'm the voice of reason in this partnership. She smiled. Someone has to keep the crazy sun man grounded. Kate Williams, the director of NASA, was not what John had expected. She was younger than him, with short blonde hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Dr. Carter, Dr. Wells, thank you for coming, she said as they entered the conference room at NASA headquarters. I've assembled a small team to investigate your findings. 3 people sat at the table. Kate introduced them one by one. This is Dr. Alan Morris, our head astrophysicist. A man in his 50s nodded at them. He had a gray beard and tired eyes. Dr. Samantha Lee, quantum physics specialist. A woman in her 30s gave them a small wave. And Colonel Frank Daniels, our military liaison. The colonel, a fit man with a crew cut, didn't smile or wave. Military liaison? John asked. I didn't realize the sun's behavior was a military concern. Anything that could affect Earth's orbit is a national security issue, Colonel Daniels said flatly. No one said anything about Earth's orbit changing, Lisa pointed out. Not yet, said Dr. Morris. But if the sun continues this behavior, eventually, it could affect the planets. Kate Williams cleared her throat. Let's start by reviewing all the data from the beginning. Dr. Carter, would you... She was interrupted by her phone ringing. After listening for a moment, her face went pale. "Turn on the TV," she ordered. Someone grabbed a remote and switched on the large screen on the wall. Every channel showed the same image. 3 large, dark ships hovering over New York City. "What are we looking at?" John whispered, although he already knew the answer. "First contact," Colonel Daniels said quietly. Admiral Vincent Shaw stood on the small platform as it descended from the Imperial cruiser. His uniform was freshly pressed for this historic occasion. Behind him stood 2 junior officers and a diplomatic translator. Below, a crowd of humans had gathered behind barriers. Military vehicles surrounded the landing zone. Shaw could see fear and wonder on the human faces. As the platform touched down on the concrete outside the United Nations building, Shaw took a deep breath. These humans had no idea how insignificant their conflicts were compared to what was coming. A group of people in suits approached. Shaw recognized the UN Secretary General from the Empire's files, along with several world leaders. The Secretary General stepped forward. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you." Shaw's translator whispered the proper response in his ear, and he repeated it in English, which he had learned for this mission. "The Galactic Empire acknowledges Earth and brings urgent news." The humans looked at each other with surprise. They clearly hadn't expected him to speak their language. "We need to speak privately," Shaw continued. "What I have to tell you concerns the survival of your species." Inside the UN building, John, Lisa, and the NASA team watched on a screen as the alien delegation was escorted to the Security Council chamber. They had been brought to New York by military helicopter immediately after the ships appeared. "Why are we here?" Lisa asked. "We're not diplomats." "Because of your research," Colonel Daniels said. "They mentioned something about Earth's sun in their first communication." The doors opened, and a military officer beckoned to them. "They're asking for you specifically, Dr. Carter." The Security Council chamber was packed with world leaders and their advisors. Admiral Shaw stood at the center, his alien features similar, enough to human to be recognizable but different enough to be unsettling. As John entered, Shaw turned to him. "Dr. John Carter, the one who noticed first." John froze. "How do you know my name?" "We've been monitoring your world for centuries," Shaw said. "But that's not important now. What's important is that you understand what's happening to your son." Shaw activated a device on his wrist and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the sun, but with strange patterns moving beneath its surface. "What you call your sun is not what you think it is," Shaw said. "It is not simply a star. It is an ancient entity, a being of immense power and intelligence that has been dormant for thousands of years." The room fell silent. "That's impossible," said Dr. Morris from NASA. "Your instruments can now detect its movements because it is awakening," Shaw continued. "In our records, it is classified as a dormant entity type 9. Only a dozen such beings are known to exist in the galaxy." "You're saying the sun is alive?" John asked, his voice barely a whisper. "More than alive," Shaw replied. "It is sentient, and now it's moving." On the hologram, the patterns beneath the sun's surface became more organized, almost like circuitry. "If it fully awakens, your world will never be the same," Shaw said. "That is why we are here." "The Empire has protocols for such events." "What kind of protocols?" Colonel Daniels asked sharply. Before Shaw could answer, a young aide rushed into the room and handed a tablet to the Secretary General. The man's face went pale as he looked at the screen. "Mr. Secretary?" the President of the United States asked. "What is it?" The Secretary General looked up. "We're receiving reports from Australia. They've discovered something." He turned the tablet so everyone could see. On the screen was an ancient cave painting, estimated to be 40,000 years old. It showed a circle with lines coming out of it, clearly the sun. But inside the circle was a distinct face with eyes that seemed to be looking down at stick figure humans below. "There are more," the Secretary General said. "Cave paintings, just like this one, have been found on every continent, all showing the same thing." "They knew," John whispered. "Somehow, our ancestors knew." The red dust of Mars swirled around the Imperial base. It had been built in just 2 weeks, a marvel of alien engineering that now stood as a gleaming outpost on the barren planet. Its main purpose was clear: to watch the sun. Dr. Samantha, Lee adjusted her spacesuit as she stepped out of the Earth shuttle. The artificial gravity inside the Imperial base made it feel almost like home. Almost. "Welcome back, Dr. Lee," said the Imperial science officer who greeted her. His name was Krell, and his skin had a faint blue tint that still caught her by surprise. "Thank you, Krell. Any changes today?" "The activity increased by 7% during your journey here," Krell said. "The patterns are becoming more complex." Samantha had been working with the Imperial scientists for a month now. As Earth's leading quantum physicist, she had been chosen to understand how a star could possibly be alive. The Empire had technology far beyond Earth's, but they seemed equally mystified by the sun's nature. "Show me the latest readings," she said as they walked to the command center. On the main screen, she saw the sun with layers of data overlaid on its image. The patterns beneath its surface had become more organized since yesterday. They almost looked like a giant brain forming. "Have you seen anything like this before?" she asked Krell. "Only once," he replied quietly. "In historical records of the Arcturus incident, but that entity was much smaller." "What happened there?" Krell hesitated. "It destroyed 300 worlds before it moved on." Samantha felt cold, despite the temperature-controlled room. "And you think our sun might do the same?" "We don't know. That's why the Empire sent 12 more battleships. They arrived in your system this morning." On Earth, panic mixed with religious fervor. Every faith tried to explain the revelation that the sun was alive. Some called it God, others a demon. Churches, mosques, and temples were filled day and night. John Carter ignored all of it. He focused on the data. In his new office at NASA headquarters, he analyzed every movement the sun had made over the past 7 months. "There's a pattern here," he muttered as Lisa Wells brought him a sandwich. "You've been saying that for days," Lisa said. "Eat something before you pass out." John took the sandwich absently. "Look at this. When the sun moves, it's not random. It makes adjustments, then pauses, then moves again, like it's testing itself." "Testing for what?" "I don't know. But these movements, they're getting bigger." Lisa looked at his screen. The latest data showed the sun had shifted its position enough to be noticeable even to amateur astronomers. Social media was filled with people asking why the sun was in the wrong place. "The Empire is getting nervous," Lisa said. "Their ships are taking up positions all around the solar system." "Can you blame them, if the sun really is what they say it is?" John didn't finish his sentence. The implications were too enormous. Colonel Frank Daniels didn't trust Admiral Shaw. The alien had been cooperative, sharing information about the sun entity, but Daniels sensed he was holding something back. They stood in the observation room, on the Mars base, looking at the massive view screen showing the sun. "Your people seem to be taking the news rather well," Shaw commented. "Some are," Daniels replied. "Others are losing their minds." "What did you expect?" "Better than most species." The Centauri panicked when they learned about their star. They destroyed themselves before it even fully awakened. Daniels turned to face the alien admiral. "What aren't you telling us? Why does the Empire fear these entities so much?" Shaw was quiet for a long moment. 50,000 years ago, an entity like your sun woke up in what you call the Crab Nebula. It consumed every planet in its system for energy, then moved on to neighboring systems. By the time the Empire could respond, it had destroyed an entire sector. Billions died. And you think our sun will do the same? We hope not. But we must be prepared. "Prepared how?" Daniels asked, his voice hard. Shaw didn't answer directly. "The Empire has authorized the deployment of our most powerful weapon, just in case." "A weapon that could destroy the sun?" "A weapon that could kill a god," Shaw corrected. Around the world, governments argued about how to respond to the Empire's presence. Some wanted to cooperate fully, sharing all Earth's resources and knowledge. Others demanded the aliens leave, insisting Earth could handle its own problems. The argument became pointless. One bright Tuesday afternoon, John was in his office when every electronic device began to malfunction. Computers crashed, phones went dead. Through his window, he saw the sky turn green as magnificent auroras appeared, visible even in daylight. "What's happening?" Lisa asked as she ran into his office. "The sun," John said simply, pointing out the window. The auroras grew brighter, forming shapes that seemed almost like letters in an unknown language. Around the world, the same phenomenon appeared in the sky. For 3 hours, the display continued. When it finally faded, electronic systems came back online. NASA's Solar Observatory reported that the sun's output had temporarily changed in ways that defied all understanding of stellar physics. That night, something new happened. As darkness fell across the United States, the moon reflected an image that wasn't there before. When people looked up, they saw what appeared to be a giant face on the sun reflected on the moon's surface. It was looking at Earth. In the Imperial command ship orbiting Jupiter, Admiral Shaw received the report with growing dread. "Show me," he ordered. The screen displayed the sun with its new feature, a massive face-like pattern on its surface composed of solar flares and darker spots. It wasn't human or alien. It was something utterly other with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "It's happening faster than we predicted," his science officer said. "At this rate, full awakening could occur within days, not months." "Alert. The fleet," Shaw ordered. "Begin evacuation of our Mars base and—" He hesitated. "Prepare the sunbreaker." "Sir," the officer said quietly, "using that weapon so close to inhabited worlds could cause—" "I know the risks," Shaw snapped. "But I've seen what these entities can do when they're hungry. The loss of one planet is better than the loss of an entire sector." Unknown to the Imperial commander, the sun heard every word, and it did not approve of their plan. John Carter was awakened by his phone ringing at 3 a.m. "John," Lisa's voice was shaking. "Turn on your TV now." He fumbled for the remote. Every channel showed the same thing. The sun, with massive solar flares erupting from its surface in patterns too regular to be natural. The flares formed shapes, symbols, and finally, recognizable letters. A message, written in fire across the face of the sun, visible to everyone on Earth's day side. "I am awake." The world changed after the sun's message. People walked around in a daze, looking up at the sky with a mix of wonder and fear. The sun now had a visible face during the day, watching over Earth like a parent watching a child. For 3 months, scientists around the world tried to communicate with the sun. They used radio signals, light patterns, and even nuclear pulses. Nothing worked. The sun remained silent after its first message. Dr. Alan Morris paced around the NASA conference room. "We're thinking too small," he said. "We're using our technology to talk to something that's billions of years old. It's like an ant trying to talk to a human using ant pheromones." John Carter nodded. "So what do we do instead?" "We need something completely different." Alan pointed to the device on the table. "That's why I built this." The device looked simple, a metal box with wires and crystals. But inside was the most advanced quantum technology ever created. "I call it the quantum bridge," Alan explained. "It doesn't send signals through space. It creates a quantum entanglement field that exists outside normal space-time." Lisa Wells frowned. "And you think the sun will understand this?" "If it's as advanced as the Empire claims, it should not only understand it but might already use something similar." Colonel Daniels, who had been quiet until now, stood up. "The Empire won't like this. They've forbidden any attempts to communicate with the entity." "We're not asking their permission," John said firmly. "This is our sun, our system." The colonel looked conflicted. "Just be careful. The Imperial fleet has doubled in size. They now have over 30 ships in our system, including something massive behind Jupiter that they're trying to hide from us." "The weapon Shaw mentioned?" Lisa asked. Daniels nodded grimly. "I think so." Dr. Samantha Lee had returned from Mars 2 weeks earlier. She now worked in a secret lab beneath the New Mexico desert, studying the ancient texts that Lisa had discovered. The texts came from different civilizations: Egypt, Mesopotamia, ancient China, and Mayan ruins. All described rituals for speaking with the Dayfather or the Eye in the Sky. "This one keeps appearing," she told Lisa, pointing to a symbol that looked like a circle with a spiral inside it. "It's in every culture's texts, always with the same instructions." "What kind of instructions?" Lisa asked. "They say the sun listens to collective thought. Not just one mind, but many minds thinking the same thing at the same time." Lisa looked skeptical. "That sounds like mysticism, not science." "Maybe the two aren't as different as we think when dealing with something like the sun," Samantha replied. "Look at these calculations." She showed Lisa a series of equations. If consciousness creates quantum effects, as some theories suggest, then millions of minds focusing on the same thought could create a significant quantum event, one that might be detectable to a being that exists partly in quantum space. "So, you're suggesting what? That we get everyone on Earth to think hello at the same time?" Samantha smiled. "Something like that. And we combine it with Dr. Morris's quantum bridge." More Imperial ships arrived daily. They took positions throughout the solar system, creating a defensive network with Earth at the center. Admiral Shaw had moved his command to the massive ship behind Jupiter, the one carrying the weapon. Colonel Daniels met with him via secure holographic link. "Your scientists are planning something," Shaw said without greeting. "What is it?" "They want to communicate with the sun," Daniels answered honestly. "They believe they've found a way." Shaw's alien features showed alarm. "That would be extremely dangerous. These entities are unpredictable when first awakening. They don't understand the concept of individual worlds or species yet." "Maybe our sun is different," Daniel suggested. "It's been here watching us evolve for billions of years." "That means nothing to a being of its power," Shaw insisted. "It must be contained or destroyed before it fully awakens." "Destroyed? That would kill everyone on Earth." Shaw looked away. "The Empire has made its decision. If your people attempt communication and provoke the entity, we will have no choice but to act." After the call ended, Daniels immediately contacted John Carter. "Whatever you're planning, do it soon. I think we're running out of time." The plan was simple but required global cooperation. For once, the nations of Earth worked together. They had 7 days to prepare for what they called the greeting. Alan Morris set up his quantum bridge on a mountaintop in Switzerland. The ancient texts suggested high places were better for sky speaking. On the day of the greeting, television and radio stations worldwide broadcast the same message. At noon, Greenwich time, think of peace, think of friendship, think of welcome. As the appointed time approached, John, Lisa, Alan, and Samantha gathered around the quantum bridge. "Will this actually work?" John asked. "I have no idea," Alan admitted. "But it's the best chance we have." At exactly noon, the quantum bridge activated. Its crystals glowed with inner light. Around the world, billions of people closed their eyes and focused their thoughts on peace and welcome. For a full minute, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the quantum bridge began to pulse with energy. It shot a beam of light straight up into the sky, much stronger than the small device should have been able to produce. "It's working," Alan shouted over the sudden wind. "Something's happening." The beam reached the upper atmosphere and then seemed to bend, heading directly toward the sun, though it was daytime. Lisa's phone rang. It was Daniels. "The Empire is going crazy," he said. "Their sensors are detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the system. They're powering up their weapon." Before Lisa could respond, the quantum bridge exploded in a shower of sparks. "No." Light beam vanished. "Did it work?" John asked, helping Alan to his feet. They got their answer seconds later. Every electronic device on Earth, phones, computers, watches, everything, displayed the same message. "I hear you, children." The sun's surface churned with new patterns. Great rivers of plasma formed symbols and mathematical equations that scientists scrambled to decode. The first equations were simple: basic arithmetic, then algebra, then calculus. Within hours, the sun had advanced to quantum physics, then beyond to mathematics no human had ever seen before. Then the equation stopped, and a new message appeared. I am Guardian. I was placed here to watch over your development. Scientists around the world worked frantically to respond through the quantum bridge network, which had mysteriously repaired itself. Who placed you here? They asked. The sun was silent for several hours. Then, the ones before. The ones who seeded this galaxy. The Empire knows of them but fears their memory. Admiral Shaw watched these exchanges with growing dread. His orders were clear, but he hesitated to give the command to fire the Sunbreaker. Perhaps this entity was different from the one that had destroyed the Arcturus sector. His hesitation ended when the sun displayed its next message. The Empire plans to destroy me. I cannot allow this. Shaw gave the order. Activate the Sunbreaker. Target the entity's core. The massive weapon behind Jupiter began to glow with power. It would take 30 minutes to fully charge. But the sun was not waiting. To demonstrate its power, and its displeasure, it did something the Empire had thought impossible. A small star, barely visible from Earth but bright in Imperial sensors, went dark. Just winked out of existence. It was a red dwarf, uninhabited and insignificant, but its message was clear. What the sun could do to a small star, it could do to Imperial ships. When the next message appeared on the sun's surface, it was directed, At the Empire, I am not your enemy unless you make me one. Choose wisely. Admiral Shaw stood frozen on the bridge of his command ship. The weapon was ready to fire, but the sun's demonstration had shaken everyone. No entity had ever destroyed a star so easily, not even the one in the Arcturus sector. Sir, his second in command, said quietly. We have direct orders from the High Council. Shaw nodded. Proceed with the attack. The massive Sunbreaker weapon began to hum louder. Its energy core glowed with a light so bright that the ship's windows had to darken to protect the crew's eyes. Target locked, the weapons officer reported. Firing in 30 seconds. On Earth, John Carter and the others watched in horror as Imperial ships moved into attack formation. The quantum bridge network was active again, connecting them directly to the Guardian. They're going to attack you, John sent through the connection. Can you defend yourself? The answer came instantly. Yes, but there will be consequences. What consequences? Observe. Everyone on Earth with an electronic device saw the same image, a simulation of what would happen if the Imperial weapon fired and the Guardian defended itself. The resulting energy release would destroy Mars, Venus, and possibly even Earth. There must be another way, John sent desperately. Before the Guardian could respond, the Imperial weapon fired. A beam of incredible power shot toward the sun, bright enough to be visible even in daylight. Everyone on Earth held their breath. The beam never reached its target. About halfway to the sun, it simply vanished. Like it had entered an invisible hole. On the Imperial command ship, alarms blared. What happened? Shaw demanded. The energy. It's gone, the science officer stammered. Like it entered some kind of dimensional fold. Impossible. Fire again. They tried 3 more times. Each beam disappeared in the same way. The Guardian was bending space itself to protect itself. Then every Imperial ship in the system received the same message, displayed on all their screens. Enough. I will speak with you now. The Guardian's next message was longer. It appeared simultaneously to all humans and to the Imperial fleet. I am one of 12 Guardians placed in this galaxy by the First Ones. Our purpose is to watch over young species with potential. Humanity is such a species. John and the others gathered in NASA's main control room, watching as the message continued. The Empire knows of the First Ones but has hidden their history. The Empire itself was once a protected species, before it chose conquest. Over harmony. In his command ship, Admiral Shaw sank into his chair. The Guardian was revealing secrets that the Empire had kept for thousands of years. The entity that destroyed the Arcturus sector was not like me. It was a corrupt Guardian, driven mad by isolation. The Empire's attacks only hastened its madness. The Guardian's next revelation stunned everyone. Humanity has reached the stage where it must choose its path. I can protect you from the Empire and guide you to join the older community of worlds, or you can choose to remain alone. Lisa looked at John. Older community? There's something beyond the Empire? Colonel Daniels, who had joined them in the control room, nodded. Shaw once mentioned something about protected sectors that Imperial ships avoid, places where their technology doesn't work properly. The choice must be made by all humans together, the Guardian continued. You have 3 days to decide. Those 3 days were unlike any in human history. Every nation, every religion, every community debated the choice. Should humanity accept the Guardian's protection? What would that mean for their future? The Empire wasn't idle during this time. Shaw received new orders from the High Council. Offer humanity membership in the Empire as an alternative to the Guardian's protection. He made this offer personally, speaking to the United Nations. The Guardian talks of protection, but at what cost? Shaw argued. The Empire offers you technological advancement, trade with 1,000 worlds, and full autonomy in your own system. Except we'd have to reject our own sun, John pointed out from his seat among the scientific advisors. The being that's watched over us since our beginning. A being that could destroy you on a whim, Shaw countered. Dr. Samantha Lee stood up. We've analyzed the Guardian's communications. There's no deception there. It genuinely wants to protect us. From what? Shaw asked. The galaxy is peaceful under Imperial rule. Is it? Colonel Daniels stepped forward. You've conquered countless worlds. You tried to destroy our sun when it merely woke up. That doesn't sound peaceful to me. The debate continued worldwide. Some wanted the Empire's technology and the promise of interstellar trade. Others trusted the Guardian that had watched over Earth for billions of years. On the 3rd day, Earth gave its answer. John, Lisa, Alan, Samantha, and Colonel Daniels stood on a platform outside the United Nations building. Behind them were representatives from every nation on Earth. Before them was Admiral Shaw and his Imperial delegation. The Secretary General stepped forward to deliver Earth's decision. After global consultation, humanity has chosen to accept the Guardian's protection and guidance. Shaw's alien features showed no emotion, but his voice was cold. You make a grave mistake. The Empire will withdraw all offers of assistance and technology. You will be alone except for your star. Not alone, John said. The Guardian spoke of other protected worlds. A community older than the Empire. Myths and legends, Shaw scoffed. You choose a risky path. We choose our own path, Colonel, Daniels replied. As Shaw's delegation returned to their ship, humans around the world sent their decision through the Quantum Bridge network. The Guardian's response was immediate. The sun's surface shifted, revealing patterns more complex than ever before. Great loops of plasma formed structures that resembled circuit boards or city plans. Then, for the first time, the Guardian spoke directly to everyone, its voice appearing in their minds rather than on screens. Your choice is accepted. Preparation. We'll begin. Preparation for what? Lisa whispered. They soon found out. That night, people around the world watched as the Imperial fleet withdrew from the solar system, their ships vanishing into faster-than-light travel one by one. When they were gone, the Guardian made an announcement that changed everything. To reach the others, we must move. Scientists detected it first. The sun had begun to move through space at an impossible speed, dragging the planets with it. Somehow, Earth's orbit remained perfectly stable. The stars in the night sky began to shift position as the entire solar system traveled toward the center of the galaxy. Where are we going? Humanity asked through the quantum bridge. Home, came the simple reply. 3 months later, Earth arrived at its destination, a cluster of stars near the galactic core. Here they found what the Guardian had promised, 12 solar systems, each with a living sun like their own, each with inhabited worlds protected from the Empire. The people of these worlds welcomed humanity with joy and friendship. They had been waiting, they said. The prophecy of the 12 Guardians reuniting had been part of their oldest stories. John Carter stood on the bridge of Earth's first starship, built with help from their new allies. Beside him were Lisa, Alan, Samantha, and Frank Daniels, no longer a colonel but now Earth's ambassador to the Guardian worlds. Through the viewport, they could see their sun, the Guardian, shining brightly. It no longer pretended to be an ordinary star. Its surface constantly shifted with patterns and structures visible even from a distance. Sometimes, the patterns formed into the face they had first seen months ago. Did we make the right choice? Lisa asked quietly. John looked at the nearby worlds, at the ships of their new allies coming to greet them, and at their sun watching over them like a protective parent. Yes, he said, we found our place in the universe, not as part of an empire but as part of something older and wiser. As if hearing his words, the Guardian pulsed once with a light that filled the entire system. On the ship's communication system, its voice spoke to all humans one more time. You are home, children, and this is just the beginning.